Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC 241, Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic 2, and Shaq, it's going down this Saturday in Anaheim, California, the rematch for the heavyweight championship. We're going to find out who the baddest man on the planet is once again.
This is such a pivotal fight in the heavyweight division. I mean, whoever wins this fight, he can cement his claim as being the greatest heavyweight of all time. If Cormier wins this fight, then he can claim he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's never lost a wrestling match at heavyweight. He's never lost a round at heavyweight. So this is going to be a really good fight. Stipe's, he seems in his feelings a little bit. Cormier seems to be in his head a little bit. Hey, look, the guy's got a first-round knockout win over him, so I understand, I guess. But it's going to be a really big fight, man. I'm interested to see what happens.
Man, I just know for a fact it's going to be chaos because historically speaking, when you have a title fight that ended in the first round the first time, the rematch is always nuts, whether it goes the full 5-round distance or someone gets finished along the way. I just have a feeling it's going to be a brutal end to that one. And also on the card, the co-main event of the evening, you got the return of Nate Diaz. He's taking on Anthony Showtime Pettis. For a fact that someone's going to have to get really hurt to shoot a takedown in that fight.
Got the great kicker versus the great boxer, Showtime Pettis. I mean, Showtime, that's what they call him for a reason. I mean, his wins are usually, oh my God, like his last one against Wonderboy Thompson. I feel like a lot of people aren't giving him enough credit for that win. And Diaz, Diaz is a guy that we really don't see that often. He likes to fight, very sparingly. But hey, when he comes, he brings a big following. He brings it every time. He's very durable. One of the better boxers in MMA. And I'm glad to see him back. I'm glad to see him, not complaining and actually in the cage fighting.
Yeah, and he's out here lighting up that Cali grade at the open workouts, you know what I'm saying? And also you got Yoel Romero taking on Paulo Costa.
Yeah, this could be a main event on pretty much, any other card, a fight night like that. Paulo Costa, we haven't seen a guy built like this since Yoel Romero, so I'm interested to see this one. We got old versus young. These two guys look like they were made in a lab, and somebody's definitely going to get knocked the fuck out on that one.
Man, I could keep previewing this card before we get to the actual preview because our top prospect at featherweight, Sodiq Yusuff's on this card versus the always tough Gabriel Benitez, and also Ian Heinisch versus Derek Brunson. This is going to be a hell of a card, Shaq.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of guys that have done a lot of good things in this sport.
Absolutely. Well, before we get down to business, we just got to let them know you can get our bets at bestfightpicks.com. Make sure you use the promo code Shaq to save 10% off Shaq's individual package. Bestfightpicks.com. And Shaq, let's get right down to business because first up in the flyweight division, we got Sabina Mazo. She's 6-1, and Shana Dobson is 3-2. Currently, they got Shana Dobson minus 115 and Sabina Mazo is minus 105. Well, Shaq, I think we went on record and said that Sabina Mazo was the new Lipsky as she went out there, did nothing as expected, and now in her return, she's got a significant step down in competition from Marina Moroz here in Shana Dobson. Do you think Sabina Mazo differentiates herself from Lipsky and actually gets her first UFC win?
Look, I called her the next Lipsky for a reason, and that was because it seemed like on the local scene that a lot of her fights were super uneventful up until she would get a knockout win, just like how Lipsky's fights were. They were ugly. Mazo was kind of losing some of those fights. Just not very impressive up until she gets a head kick knockout. And like I've said in the past, when Lipsky was getting ready to fight, Meatball Molly, look, if you're depending on knockouts in, the strawweight, flyweight, bantamweight divisions, look, it's probably not going to work out too well. And look, in her fight against Marina Moroz, she was the favorite against the girl with the ring time, and everyone was, making fun of Marina, punching air and making sounds. But look, Marina was a different fighter in that new weight class. She was coming up from 15s to 25. So, and she's got that ring time. So, and I'll tell you what, Sabina Mazo looked like a deer in headlights for a good 12 minutes. Her face was bloody. She really wasn't doing much. And it's really not that surprising because if you watch her other fights, really nothing much happens up until, these soccer moms with knee pads, duck into a head kick. And this is the UFC now. So I feel like her opponent, Shana Dobson, on the other hand, is also very low level. When we talk about her wins, we're talking about Ariel Beck and,
And two 0-0 fighters.
Yeah, so both of these girls are very, very low level. Now, it's interesting to see all this action come against Mazo, and look, I get it. She fucked you guys over against Marina Moroz, but Shana Dobson is nowhere near that level. Shana Dobson was, I think, the 16 or the 15 seed on that season of Tough, and we saw her fight Lauren Mueller, and she just kept making stupid mistakes. Like, she lost that first round due to Mueller being more aggressive. Then it seems like she's winning the second round, and then she gets hurt really badly. to end the second round, and she was losing the third round too up until she started hurting Mueller to the body. So Shayna Dobson is also a very low-level fighter. You got two very low-level fighters. It's a 50-50 fight in my opinion. It's a matter of Mazo can use her jab and her length, and can Shayna, get on the inside and exploit this tall, stiff girl who likes to tilt her chin way up in the air. But it's alarming that Moroz, no offense to Marina Moroz, but like I said with JoJo, look, they can't be giving you tours of the octagon like this, you know what I'm saying? They're supposed to barely edge out a little split, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're out here bloodying your face up, and so that's a little alarming to me. I don't know who has the higher ceiling, but it's a 50-50 fight, but I'll pick Mazo by split decision.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know either because with Sabina Mazo, she took such a step up in competition against Marina Moroz last time out. And, we can joke all we want about Marina Moroz making tennis sounds and, punching the air and this and that. But the reality here is that Marina Moroz is a fighter that went out there and finished Joanne Calderwood in the first round. Sabina Mazo's never been in there with anything remotely close to that. And honestly, either has Shayna Dobson, man. I mean, Shayna Dobson, I hate to be like, oh, her best win this, her best win that. Her best win's against Ariel Beck, man. The 2 wins prior to that were against 0-0 girls. So I'm just saying, like, it's a complete joke. As far as the styles, Dobson's more of a boxer. Mazo's more of a kicker. I think they both got a big weakness on the mat. But what's interesting about this Mazo girl is that, when she fights these soccer moms, nothing happens and a head kick out of nowhere. Well, interestingly enough, I think this is going to go down like the last time King's MMA fought Lloyd Irvin, and that's with King's MMA getting a knockout win. So I'm going Sabina Mazo here via head kick. But I would not be too confident at the betting win, though, Shaq. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got Brandon Killer B. Davis. He's 10-6, and Kyung Ho, Mr. Perfect Kang, is 15-8. Currently, they got Kyung Ho Kang minus 190. The comeback on Brandon Davis is plus 165. Well, we know for a fact that every single fight Kyung Ho Kang has had in the UFC has been super exciting. Now he's got a willing dance partner, Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis will stand and bang with literally anyone. So who do you give the edge to here?
Yeah, this fight could definitely be sleeper for fight of the night, Kyung Ho. I mean, most of his fights are typically madness. And, once he gets a willing, partner, it can be fireworks as well. He's gotten fight of the night bonuses as well in the past. So, when I look at Kang, I see a guy 4 years ago. I mean, this guy was a top prospect. That fight over Tanaka was like, holy shit, this guy's really good. He's big for 135s. I mean, just look at the size. Then he comes back 4 years later against Guido Kennedy, and he finished Guido Kennedy in the first round, coming off that 4-year layoff, and you can definitely see some signs of age. He's 30 years old now. Then he gets a fight against Ricardo Ramos, a young, hungry bantamweight, and you can definitely see he was a little intimidated in that fight. He was definitely backed up a lot. Ricardo got the better of the boxing exchanges in the first 2 rounds, and in the third round, we saw Kyung Ho's good ground game. Ricardo tends to, slow down a little bit in those late rounds, and he was able to show that he can still somewhat hang with these young guys. And then another sign that he is getting a little older. He might not be as durable as he once was. And then his fight against Teruto Ishihara, Teruto Ishihara, cracked him early in that first round, and Kyung Ho was able to recover quick, get that takedown and expose the guy with no jiu-jitsu. So now he's fighting Brandon Davis, and I'll tell you what, Davis had a rough go of it at 145. I mean, things didn't go his way too often. He fought the likes of beat Magomed Sharipov, Ultimate Fighter winner in El Fuerte Barzola, Kyle Bochniak, and Kyle Bochniak, hey, he beat Barzola. He's going to split with Hakeem Dawado and stuff, so hey.
Just facts.
Yeah. And, he got the win against Steven Peterson. And a lot of those fights at 145, Brandon would find himself getting really tired. So now he's making the drop to 35, and I feel like that forces him to be in shape. I mean, you check out this guy's Instagram. I mean, we know personally that the guy's running a marathon a week. You know what I'm saying? So straight up. So, I feel like Brandon Davis, you're going to, his fight against Randy Costa definitely, took some big shots in that fight and got wobbled. But look, I feel like it was more due to, him fighting a kid that's never been in the UFC before, who's really nervous and excited at the same time, who's about to come out guns blazing, dump his load. We've seen fights go like that plenty of times. For example, when Elijah fought that Italian kid and he comes out trying to take his bag. Oh my God, Elijah might lose. Then he gets knocked out. I feel like that's how the fight was. Brandon was in control of the fight, but Randy Costa hits hard, man, so I wouldn't actually fault Brandon for that fight. It actually shows me that he's very durable, and at 135 with the conditioning, the condition that he's in, I feel like he's got the durability edge over Kyung Ho Kang. Now, what the fight comes down to is what type of fight does Kyung Ho want to fight? If he fights smart and, tries to hug Brandon's legs, he might get the victory. But if he wants to go to typical war like what he generally likes to do, I feel like this might be a 50-50 fight, and Brandon Davis might be the more durable guy, the guy that might do better in a war. And I feel like there's a lot of value on him from a betting perspective. I like Kang. I definitely see the path to victory. But I don't think he can necessarily choke Brandon out. I don't think he can. Got a tough time holding guys down, too. You know, this ain't Teruto Ishihara. You know, his fight with Tanaka, they went back and forth on the man. You know what I'm saying? Brandon's getting better. This is not at 45s. This ain't against a Zabit Sharipov or El Fuerte. I think Brandon gets the upset here, you know. I got a lot of respect for Kyung Ho, but I feel like the line's off.
Yeah, look, back in 2014, 2013, Kyung Ho Kang had a completely different style than he does now. He was much more of a scrambler a couple of years back. Now he's a brawler, man. His last 3 fights, I mean, he stands and bangs until one man falls. Now, he does get some takedowns from time to time, but in that Teruto fight, it wasn't until he got dropped that he started shooting, you know? And same thing with the Guido Kennedy fight. It wasn't until he got rocked that he, got that body lock takedown there. So, Kyung Ho doesn't just come out shooting. I mean, he likes to stand and bang, and that's the kind of fight Brandon Davis wants. And you alluded to that cardio of Brandon. I mean, look, we saw him fight in Atlanta, Georgia. We saw him. He came to our gym the day before the fight. We saw the kind of shape he was in. Then you fast forward a couple months, and he was actually cornering against one of our guys. When Robert Hale fought Zach Fears at LFA, we saw Brandon Davis at the weigh-ins, and dude, the shape he was in back then was already insane. Now fast forward a month or two, and I just feel like Brandon Davis, he's going to start to come into his own here at 135 pounds. And I like Kyung Ho Kang a lot, but he's definitely slowed down, because when you look at how many takedowns he used to get in his fights compared to how many he gets now, I mean, it's definitely waned, man. It's definitely, the numbers have dropped off. There's no doubt about that. It's facts. So I'm going with Brandon Davis here to knock out Kyung Ho Kang and get the biggest win of his career. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got Hannah Cifers. She's 9-3, and Jodie Esquibel is 6-5. Currently, they got Hannah Cifers minus 280. The comeback on Jodie Esquibel is plus 240. Well, Shaq, they gave Jodie Esquibel another shot after the massive stun against Jessica Aguilar. But, you know, she somewhat had a little bit of a spirited effort against Angela Hill for the first couple minutes or so. Do you think she finally gets her first UFC win?
Jodie probably, like you said, probably should have been cut by now. But, you know, considering the fact that her last fight, she got a late switch from Pineda Hill, you know, they probably, you know, felt bad for her and gave her another shot against one of their up-and-coming, prospects. And we already know what the gist of this fight is. Jodie Esquibel, look, she's already got losses to Alex Chambers, losses to Jessica Aguilar by 30-27. Yoder, you know what I'm saying? You know, so we get the gist of this. You know, Jodie's I feel like she just does this for fun, not really I'm not saying that she doesn't want to advance herself. Of course, she's coming to win, but it's just, she's really small, man. She's really tiny, 5'1", but the good thing for her here is Hannah Cifers is also 5'1", so both of these girls are usually used to being severely shorter than a lot of their opponents. Both of them have trouble getting in on the inside, especially Jodie Esquibel. I mean, her punches aren't really hard, and she really is not that very accurate on her punches either. Decent takedown defense, but where this fight comes down to is Cifers is the same height as her, same frame. I'd say Cifers is a little more muscular. She's a farmer, you know. Her friends are animals, kind of like my boy Bontarine, you know. Those farmers, they got power. 5 of 9 wins by knockout, which is very impressive for a female. I mean,
strawweight.
Strawweight. Look at those muscles, man. She in her fight with Macy Barber for her UFC debut on short notice. I mean, she was so outsized in that fight. Look, we're seeing Macy Barber having trouble. I mean, she was eating 1,500 calories a day trying to make strawweight. Now she's at 125 pounds. She was so outsized in that fight. And then she gets to come back against Polyana Viana. Now we can say Polyana's a fraud and all, but look, no one told them to line Cifers plus 200. So, but, I feel like Hannah Cifers is just more of I don't want to say a version of Jodie, but I want to say younger, bigger frame, a little tougher, more power, and just more hungry. I feel like Jodie, when things aren't going her way, not that she quits, because I do think that she has the heart, but I just think that she can kind of turn into a mummy out there, kind of a little too far on the outside, and she's just swinging these punches that aren't really landing, as where Hannah Cifers, 5 of 9 wins by knockout. She's put girls in the ground before. Her and that girl, Hannah Goldie, had a similar opponent. The girl that Goldie fought on Tough, Cifers knocked that girl out. So Cifers' power is the rounds might possibly, just be close on volume, because Jodie does throw a lot, but the power will be the edge. Cifers will just turn up at the end of the round. So I got hype Cifers by 30-27.
Who would have thought that Jodie Esquibel would still be in the UFC, but Jag would get cut? You know, after that stunt, after Jodie embarrassed me.
One's fucking Jardine and the other one.
True, Jardine did put up some great fights. You know, he beat Chuck Liddell in Forest. You know what I'm saying? What else is there to say? But after Jodie embarrassed me and made me look really bad. Listen, I don't pick emotionally, but I will never pick Jodie Esquibel in any fight. I mean, let's just break down her career. She went 7-7 as a boxer, and she's about to go 7-7 as an MMA fighter. Look, Hannah Cifers, even though we can say what we want about her personality, which I actually think it's kind of cool to have someone so humble, so quiet, and this and that in the UFC.
She's a farmer, bro.
Like, I respect Hannah Cifers, but she's going out there. She's got that farmer strength. She's knocking these girls out. I think she gets her first UFC finish here. Look, I spoke to the air. The air said that Caitlin Chukagian hits a lot harder than Jodie Esquibel. I see Hannah Cifers with a left hook KO here. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got Manny Bermudez. He's 14-0, and Casey Kenney is 12-1. Currently, they got Manny Bermudez minus 135. The comeback on Casey Kenney is plus 115. Well, I know everyone remembers we cashed that plus 260 in Casey Kenney's UFC debut against Ray Borg. You think he makes it 2 in a row here against the submission specialist Manny Bermudez?
Yeah, Manny Bermudez is quite the prospect at 135. Rumor has it that it could have been him that got the Faber fight instead of Ricky Simon, and that would have been an interesting matchup to see the Bermudez triangle in there. So, we know what Manny brings to the table. Look, if this guy gets you on that mat in the first round, hold your fucking breath, because this guy's about to run you through the series, and not too many guys is probably going to make it through that series. It's going to take a serious grappler to get through that series. And, Casey Kenney could arguably be undefeated, man. He's got a draw against Bruno Bulldog Silva, who that I felt that he won. And then, Bruno Bulldog's actually fighting Taha coming up here shortly. And then he fought Adam Antolin on the Contender Series and got robbed there. So we could be saying Casey Kenney's also 14-0 like Manny.
But then he won that robbery against Roman Salazar. We don't gotta mention that.
But we'll just act like that never happened. But so look, I like Casey Kenney. I think Casey Kenney has a very bright future. But from a betting perspective, when I see this fight, look, when you got a specialist like Manny Bermudez, and Casey Kenney's a very good striker, definitely I feel like has the long-term edge on the feet in this matchup against Manny. I know Manny's hands are getting better. I know that he's getting very comfortable throwing his right hand, more and more comfortable. He did miss weight, his last fight, a very big guy. But Manny Bermudez is one of those guys where if he gets you on that mat in the first round, and Casey, unless you show signs of not making any mistakes on that mat, that's the only way I could trust you on this matchup, and I like Casey Kenney. But look, you look at his fight against Brandon Royval back in the day. You look at his fight against Roman Salazar. Look, there were some very, very sketchy moments in triangle and armbar positions. And yes, he got out of them. But what do you think is going to happen if the real guy gets him in there? You know what I'm saying? Especially while he's fresh. Now, the only way Kenney can win this fight is if he survives and, makes Manny stay. And we've seen stay up on the feet. And we've seen Manny look for ways out against Saul Almeida. That his UFC debut against Albert Morales, he was looking for ways out. But the guy chains together these chokes and these and these scrambles, man, to a point where it's just like like Benito Lopez was just like, fuck, man, like I don't know what to do. And so I slightly do lean Manny Bermudez. And, generally I would say this is a dog or pass situation, but I actually think the value is on Manny in this spot. He's got the way to win where it could be like this, kind of like similar to Ryan Hall, He's not Ryan Hall, but when he's fighting these guys, these young prospect 35ers that make mistakes on the mat, it's more than likely going to be an easy win for Manny. So I got to go with Manny Bermudez by first round submission. But I respect Casey Kenney a lot. I think he's got a bright future. Beat Ray Borg on 4 days' notice at plus 260 for us. I wouldn't be shocked if he won, but Manny, the guy's ground game is legit.
It's super legit. And what's really interesting about this Manny Bermudez guy is that he's only officially a purple belt. Yeah. But
matter of fact, Manny Bermudez trains at the gym. Remember Josh Grisby back in the day?
Yeah, of course.
He trains at the gym that Grisby was training in. So whatever those fucking crazy ass chokes, before Grisby went off the fucking deep end.
Before Dustin.
Yeah, before Dustin. But these fucking guillotines and these fucking So whatever they're on.
So he's officially a purple belt, but I would say for MMA, he's a black belt. For MMA, look, if he puts on the gi, it's a different story. But for MMA with punches involved, Manny Bermudez has black belt level jits, man. He gets a hold of someone's neck or their limb, and good night, Irene. You know what I'm saying? You're tapping that mat or going to sleep or getting something ripped off. And, I've been going back and forth on this one. Earlier in the week, I was picking Kenney because I was under the impression that, hey, look, it's sub or bust with Manny. It's so easy to call him sub or bust or this or that, but are you actually going to get past the submission? And so that was my big question. And I was like, well, Casey's been grappling since he was 5. He's
college wrestler, judo, black belt,
all those things, survived Ray Borg, this and that. But then you see him in these fights with guys like Roman Salazar, the fight right after that, and you see these guys getting close on Darces, triangles, and it's like, well, fuck. I mean, if these guys are doing it, what's going to happen when Manny Bermudez gets in there? So I'm actually changing my pick, man. I'm going Manny Bermudez via submission. I saw someone post online, what happens if Manny Bermudez doesn't get a first-round sub? He gets a second-round sub. So I'm going Manny Bermudez here via submission. Next up in the lightweight division, we got Drakkar Klose. He's 10-1, and Christos Giagos is 17-7. Currently, they got Drakkar Klose minus 170. The comeback on Christos Giagos is plus 150. Well, Shaq, Christos has made some improvement. Look, he's on a 2-fight win streak for the first time in his UFC career. Now he's taking on Drakkar Klose, who basically all he does is win for the most part. Do you think Drakkar Klose extends it here and gets another victory?
Drakkar's won every fight besides the Tamor fight, and so sometimes the Tamor fight can be very tough. We're talking eye gouges, we're talking low blows, we're talking greasing. So he had a tough night against Tamor, but Drakkar's he's pretty much a straightforward fighter with a straightforward approach. He's gonna throw calf kicks from the outside. He's gonna look to bully you against that fence, though. The little Benson stomps and the Benson calf kicks on the fence. I mean, he's got all those type of techniques in his arsenal. He's a very good guy against that fence. Now out in space in the boxing, he's a little green still. He's definitely, I don't want to say he's definitely not chinny or anything, but he definitely fights with his hands down a little bit from the outside. And we've seen times in the past where he's gotten tired a little bit and kind of, like for example in that third round against Mark DeCasey, or specific rounds against Bobby Green where he's been fully mounted and he's looking a little tired. But the thing with Drakkar is, man, he's so tough, he's so gritty that he'll dig down deep and he'll generally will himself to these wins and comes back in the late rounds. So now he's fighting Christos Giagos, and hey, Christos pulled off an upset down there in Sweden, his last fight against Damir Hadzovic, who was looking like he was getting a lot better, and Christos shut that down. Now, the thing with Christos is he comes out very hard in the first round. He swings those big uppercuts and hooks. And look, he can definitely have some success early. The thing with Christos is, historically, this guy is a stunt puller in the late rounds. He's got a good, 5, 6, 7 minutes in him. Then he starts the hands start to drop, his mouth starts to open. He's got a lot of muscles in that frame. Then he gets a little tired, and then third round is hold your breath moment, because look at his last 2 fights against Pugness and Damir Hadzovic. The Damir one wasn't as bad, but he definitely lost those rounds. He got tired. If you do that against Drakkar Klose, look at Drakkar Klose's last fight against Bobby Green. What happened in that third round? Drakkar turned up when he got after getting fully mounted in the second round and getting smashed on. Drakkar turned up in that third round and teed off. And you get tired, and Drakkar's going to start throwing calf kicks. He's going to start bullying you up in that fence. And I feel like Drakkar Klose is probably going to get this win here, barring he doesn't get caught. So I think Drakkar Klose is the better fighter all across the board, except in the boxing. But I think as the fight progresses, he can have more success in the boxing. I just think Christos will have success early. He does swing big. He's a big boy, you know what I'm saying? So, but I do think Drakkar Klose is going to get the win here, probably by 29-27, 10-8 third round. And I think Drakkar Klose will move on in the lightweight division.
Drakkar Klose is predicting a first-round knockout for this fight.
He's training at Neuroforce 1. Hey, they specialize in first-round knockouts.
You saw Korean Zombie against Moicano. Even Bobby Moffitt, that was the best he's ever looked, man. I was like, damn, okay. Despite him getting robbed, I thought he looked really damn good. Look here with Christos and Drakkar Klose. Listen, man, I've been sleeping on Christos a little bit, especially in that last fight against Damir. But then when we watched it the other day, it was actually Damir that went out there and pulled a massive stunt to the point where, the guy was huffing and puffing 2 minutes in. We were like, oh my God, Damir, what the fuck, man? Because Christos, the reason we picked Damir in that spot, you see the fight before that against Hirota, and, he's going face first into the mat with these takedown attempts, and he still did that against Damir Hadzovic. But Demir, I mean, the guy had a baby the week before. You know what I'm saying? He's staying up at 4 a.m. every night. But here with Drakkar Klose, I think if you start to shoot takedowns face first in the mat against a guy like Klose, he will turn up on you. So I'm gonna go Drakkar Klose via third round finish here. When Christos gets into that bodybuilder state and he starts doing the whole bit, I think he's gonna be huffing and puffing. I think he's gonna hit the deck, man. I got Drakkar Klose via knockout. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got Raphael Assuncao. He's 27-6, and Cory Sandhagen is 11-1. Currently, they got Cory Sandhagen minus 220. The comeback on Raphael Assuncao is plus 180. Well, Shaq, you're dealing with a guy in Raphael Assuncao who's literally beat the entire top 15 of the bantamweight division. I mean, we're talking wins over TJ Dillashaw, Marlon Moraes, Pedro Munoz, Rob Font, Aljamain Sterling. We can go on. Even beat Jorge Masvidal back in the day, right? So Raphael's done everything you can do besides wear a belt in this sport.
Raphael dissed George his first ass whooping as a pro.
But this kid, Cory Sandhagen, I call him the output king for a reason. Other people consider him to be a future world champion. He was very impressive against John Lineker. Do you think it's first L time inside the UFC here versus Raphael Assuncao?
Yeah, like you just said, Raphael Assuncao is one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. You just said his resume. I mean, he's beaten the who's who, former champions, top contenders. So Raphael Assuncao has had quite the run. Now, Cory Sandhagen has really had quite the run. I mean, I remember when this guy was making his UFC debut, they said, keep a lookout for this kid. He was TJ's former training partner, and, he might be a future world champion. At the time when I heard it, I was like, yeah, okay. But
he beat Austin Arnett, big whoop,
But I mean, the way he beat Arnett, I kept my eyes on him. I was like, man, he just fucking went to his body, had him, fucking on the head first on the canvas, and then they rush him up, and Yuri Alcantara, and he's dropping a weight class. People are saying, this is a little too much, like, what I'm saying? And he goes out there, he gets into a terrible position. That would have, and against a lot of other guys, that would have been a classic Yuri Alcantara first round finish. I know y'all know those Yuri first round smokings. You know what I'm saying? When Yuri gets his first round finish, that's what it looks like. That's what it looked like it was gonna be.
What was that? The little British guy he smoked in 20 seconds? Oh, there's Phil Harris too, but no, I'm talking about the kid with the tats on his neck, that beat Nam fan. Von Lee. Yeah. Go check out Yuri Alcantara versus Von Lee, and then check out versus Brad Pickett.
You watch Yuri Alcantara versus Ricardo Lamas.
Yuri loves beating up on Brits.
You want to see a man get knocked stiff? Go watch Yuri Alcantara versus Ricardo Lamas. Yeah, so they throw him in that fight with Yuri, a big step up. That's how I see if guys are really who they say they are. These big step up in competitions. So he gets in that spot with Yuri. I mean, turned into it and absolutely smashed him. The fight was his after that. Then, he was going to fight Tomas Almeida. Thank God that didn't happen.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness, if that would have happened.
That would have been a massacre. By the way, let's check if Tomas is still ranked top 15, because, these rankings are a fucking joke. He's number 15 in the world, and his last win was over Albert Morales 100 years ago.
That's to me now, bro.
I love Tomas. He's exciting, but how the fuck is he ranked?
He was supposed to fight Almeida. That fell through. And then, he had Mario Bautista, unfortunately, had to take the wrath. And look, a lot of people would be like, Bautista. But look, I'll tell you what, Bautista's a very promising prospect.
You see his next fight?
The guy fight of the night is last fight. Look, that fight let me know Bautista was the real deal, because Sandhagen was fucking putting it on him, and he was fucking
we're talking dropping flying knees.
like flying knees, and then the armbar finish, like Bautista was overwhelmed to a point. He was like, oh my God. And then then he gets the fight against John Lineker, and that's another big step up in competition. Mario Bautista, UFC entry-level fighter, to John Lineker, former number 2 fighter in the world. We're talking a guy that knocked out Mayday McDonald, beat John Dodson in a 5-round
He was one fight away from a title shot.
Beat Rob Font. It was on EPO when they fought, and he broke John's jaw. And, but anyways, look, that was another big step up in competition. And I mean, I think he passed that test with flying colors. I mean, the guy was throwing great time knees up the middle. He was going to Lineker's body. He was throwing low kicks on Lineker. These are things that you really don't see happening too often. And, now people are saying Assuncao is an even bigger step up in competition. I don't want to say it, but personally, I don't feel like it's that big a step up from Lineker. I like Assuncao, but when we look at Assuncao's past victories, how is he winning most of these fights? By a close decision. We're talking when he fought Aljamain Sterling was the fight. The fight was just a a sit back and counter fest. And, Aljamain at the time was a little scared to let his hands go. He was coming off the Brian Caraway loss. His confidence was really low. The fight was shit, to be honest. And, Assuncao is a little smarter than him. Sterling doesn't throw the output of a Sandhagen.
Nowhere near.
Nowhere near. He doesn't have the hands of boxing. Switching to the stance, the feints. And then his fight against Marlon Moraes, he caught Marlon Moraes in his debut. And Marlon Moraes, I like the guy, big power, but he gets tired. He's chinny. No offense, great fighter. But what happens when you historically extend Marlon Moraes outside the first round?
What happens when you don't get finished by Marlon in the first round?
What happens when you don't get knocked out by Marlon in the first round? He gets tired and he starts getting dropped. I mean, just look at his entire career. That's just been the case. So look, he was able to get that split decision win. But the fact that Marlon ran through him the way that he did in the rematch let me know that Raphael really hasn't been evolving this entire time. He's just been maintaining. And maintaining has been good enough for him to get by these little fights with Rob Font and Matthew Lopez, guys that in my opinion, can't even breathe Sandhagen's air. You want to know why? Because I've seen Rob Font have his John Lineker test before, and I saw how the way it went in his third UFC fight, just like Sandhagen. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So I've seen him, pull stunts against Pedro Munoz before. So I feel like Sandhagen in my opinion, has solidified himself as a guy living up to this bill. And Raphael Assuncao, when you look at the style matchup, he likes to sit back and counter. When these guys stand in front of him and they're a little slow and they're just not on the... I just think Sandhagen's the real deal. I'm sold. I think the division hasn't seen a guy that can give you this many different looks. In 15 minutes, in my opinion, it's just going to be too hard to figure out in 15 minutes. We're talking the guy is switching stances all over the place. His left hooks to the body, his jab, just left hooks to the head, fucking the knees, fucking, his ground game. Look, I feel like Assuncao, he's either going to have to become the aggressor from the opening bell. And I just don't think that's something he does, man. He's stuck fighting that way. He's been that style has made him a lot of money, man. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna fight that way. I see him. He's doing this camp at ATT, but at 37 years old, 36 or 37 years old,
37.
I don't think that he's gonna be able to maintain his spot in the division. He had his time. Now it's Cory Sandhagen's time. Now we saw that. Look, Raphael really hasn't been evolving. Marlon already caught up to him and blew him out the water. These guys are too young. They're getting better. Unfortunately, I think this is Sandhagen's fight. I think he overwhelms Raphael with the volume. I think he outworks and outclasses Raphael Assuncao. So I got to go with Cory Sandhagen by 30-27, possibly 30-26.
Bring up a lot of great points. Obviously, we have a tremendous respect for Raphael Assuncao, his resume, what he's accomplished in the sport, how disciplined his fighting style is, and just the fact that he stayed in the top 5 for like the last, decade? I mean, goddamn, man. I mean, I remember in high school when we watched him in the WEC, you know what I'm saying? So, Rafi's been doing his thing, man, but there's only so long you can stay at the top of a weight class, especially in one of the lower weight classes. If you're 37 years old at heavyweight, you might just be entering your prime, but 37 at bantamweight, you better really be something special. And like you mentioned, in these fights with Rob Font where, you throw one, I'll throw one, let's go back and forth and this and that. Of course, Rafi is able to go out there, be the more technical guy, outgun, these young guys and win these decisions. But when you're talking about a guy like Cory Sandhagen who literally has triple the output almost of Raphael Assuncao, in my opinion, has a wider arsenal of strikes, which is crazy to say, but I mean, you only see the same few strikes from Raphael. He throws his hook, he throws his leg kick, a couple shots here and there. Whereas Cory Sandhagen, you're seeing the knees, you're seeing the calf kicks, you're seeing the elbows, the spins, the straight punches, the combos, the stance switching, the teeps, everything, man. He's an artist out there. And what's interesting is that I was always under the impression that Cory was some frat boy and this and that, and I didn't take him that seriously when he fought Austin Arnett. But boy, was I woken up when he fought Yuri Alcantara, because, I thought it was just a situation where, you can tee off on Austin Arnett, a big whoop. Who hasn't teed off on Austin Arnett? Humberto Bandana. No, but you know what I mean? It was like, who hasn't teed off on Austin Arnett, right? But then you see that fight, with Yuri Alcantara, and it's like, well, we know he can give it, but can he take it too? Fuck yeah, he can take it too, because, I mean, looked like his arm was about to be broken, looked like his face was about to be broken, and it's not like he just barely survived and, got to tell his friends that he made it to the distance. No, this guy survives, then he's on top of him, pounding him out, gets a TKO win. I was like, oh shit, like, this kid might be the real deal. Then he takes on Mario Bautista, who you saw, he just had a fight of the night, and Cory ran through him exactly how you're supposed to run through him, which is under 5 minutes. Next fight against Lineker, again, it's like, well, Cory's kind of tall. He might have tall man defense. This is the guy that's going to let us know, can he really take it? Is he really a contender, or is it just a hype job? Well, shit, I mean, he ate all the shots perfectly fine. He did what Rob Font was supposed to do a million years ago against John Lineker. He did the perfect game plan for John Lineker, and now he gets to step up in competition. Look, with Raphael Assuncao, he's so good at slowing fights down and getting you to fight at his pace, and that's the complete opposite of what Cory Sandhagen does, man. He's just going to outvolume him, outwork him, like you said, outclass him, go out there and win this decision. So I would not be surprised if there was a finish, but since Raphael doesn't take too many risks, I will go with Cory via decision.
I mean, the last time we saw Raphael fight a guy switching stances, UFC 200, didn't go so well.
And that's a 5'6" fraud, you know what I mean? TJ Dillashaw, guys. But this guy, Cory Sandhagen, yeah, he's a 5'11" bantamweight with a 71-inch reach. So, we saw the 5'6" HEH midget pick apart Raphael Assuncao. Now we're going to see the 5'11" prodigy, the virtuoso, the maestro go out there and take care of biz. This kid is the real deal. Next up in the lightweight division, we got Devonte Kincaid Smith. He's 10-1, and Khama Worthy is 14-6. Currently, they got Devonte Kincaid Smith minus 800. The comeback on Khama Worthy is plus 550. Well, I mean, Shaq, this kid Khama is taking it on a week short notice. What kind of chance are you giving him here?
Less than a week short notice. Look, I'll be quick with this one. Devonte Smith will knock Khama Worthy out in less than 3 minutes and hopefully get his rebooking against John McDessie. Unfortunately, Worthy's going to have to pay for the sins of Clay Collard and McDessie. At least he'll get a second chance. I'll be excited, but the guy's been knocked out how many times? Five times. By who again?
Matt Bissett.
Matt Bissett and
some other guys.
And some other guys. So, yeah, I mean, hold up.
Let's just get down to the nitty-gritty.
Kyle Nelson and Billy Quarantillo, the guy we saw get a contract on Contender Series. So Paul Felder as well. So, generally what I'm saying is when he fights UFC fighters, he gets knocked out. Now, someone would counter with me, you mean to tell me the guy that got finished by John Gunther? Hey, look, I know he got finished by John Gunther, but hey, man, Gunther didn't get finished by Trezano or...
Look, if they ever ran it back...
Shit happens out there, man. But yeah, Devonte Smith by KO in less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you mean to tell me that not only is this guy taking it on less than a week short notice and he has to fight Devonte Kincaid Smith, one of the fastest prospects in the lightweight division, but this guy's also been knocked out stiff 5 times, including by non-power punchers like Matt Bissett. And basically with Khama Worthy, look, when the fight starts out, it's going to be like, hey, man, this kid's pretty good. Like, you know what I'm saying?
He has a chance.
He's like, he's athletic, he's big. It's like, okay, all right, I see why they signed him. And then as soon as he gets cracked one time, you're going to see all that technique go out the window. You're going to see a vicious, stiff, brutal KO here. I got Devonte Kincaid Smith. And by the way, if he ever fought John Gunther again, he would mop the floor with him. Next up in the middleweight division, we got Derek Brunson. He's 19-7, and Ian Heinisch is 13-1. Currently, they got Ian Heinisch minus 145. The comeback on Derek Brunson is plus 125. Well, I know they remember we cashed those nice dog odds on Ian Heinisch against Antonio Carlos Jr., but the thing is, he's not taking on a jiu-jitsu guy this time. He's taking on the guy that loves to charge you recklessly with his chin straight up in the air, Derek Brunson.
And I know Ian's probably got to be a little happy. I mean, it ain't just been his 2 fights. Firstly, he fought Cesar Ferrer, 3rd-degree black belt, and Quit Face, his Shoe Face, my bad. Quit Face, his last fight. But prior to that, man, he was fighting black belts too. Daniel Madrid, Maluco, Perez. I mean, he fought like 5 or 6 black belts in a row. So now, now we get to see Ian Heinisch in a real firefight. Generally he's been kind of holding back on the striking because When you find guys like Maluko and Madrid, these guys that can snatch your neck up real quick, you kind of have to hold back, man. Fighting off takedowns every fight. So I feel like this fight, there's a chance we see all of Ian Heinisch's skill. Now he's fighting Brunson. Brunson got that win over Elias, and of course he wanted him to knock the ballerina out. But the ballerina's tough to knock out. Maheda couldn't finish him. Eric Anders couldn't finish him. Look, Elias is tough to finish. Now, even though the fight went the distance, Brunson, he used more wrestling. He showed a little bit more patience, I guess. But look,
let's relax.
I like Brunson and all, but this whole these hard knocks 365 are giving him improvements. Look, Brunson's the same dog with the same tricks. The guy that's been taking all this damage throughout the years, the knockout losses to Israel Adesanya, and
among others.
He did get the knockout wins over Lyoto Machida and Daniel Kelly, but Daniel Kelly's 40 years old and Machida's 40 years old, and he was coming off a fucking extensive steroid suspension.
So real quick, you're saying the last time Derek Brunson fought a guy that broke Shoeface, he knocked him out.
You know what I'm saying? But anyways, look, I think that Derek Brunson is going to be the same guy that he's been throughout his entire career. The guy that, I feel like a guy like him that's taken those severe KO losses like we saw his last fight. Look, if there was a chance the bum rusher guy would have been his last fight, you know what I'm saying? Like, that guy
fought a harmless opponent.
Fought a harmless guy with no threat to knock you out whatsoever. Like, that was your chance to fucking let it go. Like, Elias couldn't bust a grape, like, straight up, like... So, now he's fighting Ian Heinisch, a guy that, like I said, we really haven't gotten to see his full game because he's been fighting these black belts. So here in this opportunity, in this fight, I feel like Brunson, I feel like you're going to start seeing him go away from that, reckless, unless he gets really desperate, unless he gets hurt, then he's going to have to do what he knows to get him a win. But I feel like initially, you're just going to see Brunson stand out there in space with his chin up in the air, and I think he's probably going to look to try to wrestle. Look, when you got a guy that's taken that many KO losses, look at his last fight. He didn't. That wasn't the same Brunson.
He was scared of
Elias. He was scared of those Elias pity pat punches. You know what I'm saying? The guy's coming off a lot of damage, guys. So I feel like in this fight, Ian Heinisch, he's going to use his feints and face from the outside, and I feel like he's going to probably try to create chaos at some point. Keep it safe on the outside, but when it's time to capitalize on Brunson's chin up in the air, use those big overhand rights that we saw him hurt Carlos Jr. with, that we saw him hurt Cesar Ferreira with. Brunson leaves a lot more openings. I don't think he can wrestle Ian Heinisch for 15 minutes. And Elias is not as strong as Ian Heinisch, in my opinion, man. I feel like Elias I think he's just a good tactical flail.
He was a good bullshitter.
He's a good bullshitter. He couldn't bullshit for too long, you know what I'm saying? But I think...
the fans were more mad when Elias got cut than when John Lineker got cut?
It's crazy, I don't get it. But anyways, man, it's surprising to see all this action on Brunson just because those one wins. And, he's got the more name recognition, but when you really look at his wins, his best, knockout win is Uriah Hall. We're talking he's got wins over Ed Herman, Sam Alvey.
It's really just a style for me, though.
I just think that he's a little overrated. I feel like he's always been overrated. I feel like if he does not knock Ian out, he will lose this fight. I feel like he's not going to win a decision in this fight, in my opinion. And I got Ian Heinisch by second round KO, so...
Is it Derek Brunson or Derek Dunson? Because, it's one of those situations where, hey, Derek, you fought Yoel, you fought Israel, you fought Rob, you fought Jacare. Here's Elias Theodoro on a silver platter. And to have that kind of performance where you stink up the crowd like that when you have, what's it called,
A ballerina, a flailer.
When you have a hand-picked gift opponent. I know it was a pick'em and this and that, but guys, it's Elias. Like, he's harmless. This was Derek's chance to go out there. It's like, Derek, if there's one fight where you can charge the guy with your chin straight up in the air and your sloppy striking and not be worried about getting countered, it's against Elias, and he didn't charge him even once. So it's kind of like, is Derek, is he at the point now where he doesn't believe in himself to the point where he will not even charge these guys anymore?
Yeah, that's right.
So, here against Heinisch has all the confidence in the world. And yeah, Heinisch might also, he might have, his somewhat quote-unquote sloppy tendencies just like Derek Brunson does. But at the end of the day, he's so much tougher. And, when these two are in their gas state, the battle of wills is...
You mean to tell me Brunson is beating Heinisch at a game of wills?
Look, Brunson, you better knock him out is all I got to say. I think Heinisch is going to be feigning. I think he's going to get back up from the takedown attempts. I'm saying a lead high kick. knockout for Ian Heinisch here. Next up in the featherweight division, we got Super Sodiq Yusuff. He's 9-1, and Gabriel Mowgli Benitez is 21-6. Currently, they got Sodiq Yusuff minus 275. The comeback on Gabriel Mowgli Benitez is plus 235. Well, Shaq, last time Gabriel Benitez fought, we put 5 units on him to go out there and beat Humberto Bandenay. He took care of business in under a minute. Now he's got quite the step up in competition. It ain't Humberto Bandenay anymore. Now it's one of the top prospects, Sodiq Yusuff. You think Gabriel Benitez comes out here and gets another big win?
Gabriel has definitely come a long way since he's been on The Ultimate Fighter. You go back and look at some of those losses in the past. I mean, he's come a long way, you know what I'm saying? He's a southpaw that stays disciplined and kind of has the Darren Till approach. He's only going to throw a few specific type of strikes: a straight left, the straight kick, whether it be to the legs, the body, or the head. And, he threw a left uppercut in his fight against Humberto Bandenay. So, maybe he's broadening his array of strikes.
It's all left side shots.
But all he throws is left side shots. You know what I'm saying? And look, that's because he's so good at all those left side shots. Javier Mendez has said that Mowgli's the hardest kicker in the gym over guys like Rockhold, etc. So, between you and me, Rockhold
was never the hardest kicker.
Never mind. I'll get to Rockhold later with But anyways, man. So yeah, now he's fighting Sodiq, and Sodiq Yusuff is quite the prospect. I mean, the guy's only got 10 fights, but the talent level is super high. And I mean, like I say with African fighters, man, the Africans possess some of the greatest raw power that you'll see in the sport. I mean, we just saw it the other day with my boy William Knight. That guy's a fucking tank. The guy's has no idea what he's doing, but just his brute strength, his fucking will, his heart. He'll muscle his way out of anything and he'll knock you the fuck out. So, those African fighters, man, they're showing time. And, the only one I cannot vouch for is Kennedy Njoku.
What about Oluwale Bangboshe?
He's not in the company anymore.
No, he was born in Nigeria.
That was a misprint. But yeah, so I feel like Sodiq Yusuff in his fight against Mike Davis on Contender Series, we can say that Davis ain't shit, this and that now, of course, but at the time, I mean, they were hyping Mike Davis up to a point as if he was
minus
Jesus.
250.
Yeah, I mean, against Sodiq Yusuff, you know what I'm saying? They were hyping that kid up to a point where, and Sodiq completely shut down that and used those calf kicks as big power. He hurt Davis. Sodiq, he's just a super fundamental guy. Now, when I was saying the raw power early, Sadiq's one of these guys where he's got the raw power plus the smarts, man. The guy's not an idiot. He knows how to fight technical. He knows how to fight moving backwards, moving forwards. He knows how to clinch and tie up and wrestle as well. Now, after that fight with Mike Davis, which was one of the more high-level fights you're going to see on the Contender Series, he gets that fight against Suman Mokhtarian. And how did he treat Suman? Very accordingly, knocked him out in less than a minute 30, I think it was 50-something seconds, I think it was. Or then you take a huge step up, like I was referring to with Sandhagen earlier, these big steps up in competition. Mike Davis, Suman Mokhtarian, Shaman Moraes on the main card. Holy shit. Okay, so that, these big talent, these big step up in competitions, and his fight with Shaman, look, I feel like Sadiq's definitely had a lot better days because, of course he was fighting, easier competition, but look, man, he dealt with the tough fight it was. I mean, a lot of guys could have broken that spot. I mean, the first round, he was able to just move forward, be the aggressor, use the clinch, use his size. I mean, like I said, when you get close to one of those Africans, it's a little scary, man. You know what I'm saying? And the second round was a little rough. Shaman's got some good techniques on the outside with the lead elbows and the knees. And, Shaman's really tricky in the third round. Sodiq, it looked like, it was more of the second, but man, he showed the mental. He stayed in there and he ended up dropping Shaman and getting the job done, man. That's a tough fight at a young age dealing with a big step up in competition. Now, Mowgli Benitez, on the other hand, we know what Mowgli being. When we look at his last 5 fights, we're talking, Sam Cecilia. He did treat him very accordingly, finished him off, put him to sleep with that choke. But then he fought El Fuerte Barzola, and what happened in that fight? He didn't like the pressure of El Fuerte. El Fuerte was walking him down at will. Now, he hit El Fuerte with a bevy of straights, body kicks, and El Fuerte walked him down the entire time. But he shows that's the hole in Mowgli's game. When you saw Jason Knight, when he fought Jason Knight, and, Jason Knight's a nice guy. He was number 15 at the time when they fought, but Jason Knight, was out there biting shit. He was out there with fucking ankle sleeves on.
Didn't he miss weight too?
He was, I don't know.
He looked fat.
He just looked like dog shit, and he was looking like dog shit his entire. After that too,
After Lamas, yeah.
It
was over.
It was over after Ricardo Lamas, and even in that fight, there was times where Knight would touch Mowgli, and you could tell Mowgli feels it. You remember the Philly fight where he got knocked out? Look, he has a big toe when he's hurt, and he smiles when he's hurt. You know what I'm saying? And anytime he smiles, that means he just felt a punch. So, and I saw him smile a lot in that Jason Knight fight. Now he was able to, of course, easily pick Knight from the outside. Who can't pick Knight up from the outside? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a good win, and I feel like Humberto's a good win, but I just feel like Sodiq level's talent level is, oh my God, so much better than those guys. One would say that Mowgli Benitez could possibly be the best opponent that Sodiq has fought, but the fact that we got that experience against a big, hard kicker like Shaman Moraes, I mean, Shaman landed head kicks on the side of his head and he kept moving forward. I feel like that prepares us good for a fight with Mowgli Benitez, a guy who I don't feel like is as tricky as Shaman Moraes. Yeah, he's a little more fundamental, a little more disciplined, but I don't think he's got the chin to beat a guy like Sodiq Yusuff. I feel like Sodiq can walk this guy down very easily, tie him up to slow him down a little bit, and then let off, with the punches and knock this guy out. So I got a lot of respect for Mowgli Benitez, but I think Sodiq moves on and shows everyone that he is the real deal at 145 pounds.
Yeah, look, Sodiq's calf kick game is really amazing, but I don't think it's going to be as big of a weapon here just because this is orthodox versus southpaw. So what I think he's going to need to do is tie Mowgli up a little bit, start landing knees to the thigh, maybe make the crowd boo a little bit, but once they separate, then he starts landing those big bombs. And like you said, Mowgli likes to smile when he gets hit. He's going to smile at the first one, but the second one's going to put him out cold. So I don't think he's going to be smiling when they bring out the smelling salts and the flashlight in his eyes. I'm going Sodiq Yusuff via highlight reel 50K performance of the night knockout. Now, shit's about to get real, my man, because next up in the middleweight division, we got Yoel, the soldier of God, Romero. He's 13-3, and Paulo Costa is 12-0. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. This is an unbelievable fight, so I just got to ask you off the bat, is Yoel is he going to come out here and get his first win over the new generation of middleweights?
It's going to be a great fight, Yoel. We haven't seen him in a while since that second Rob Whittaker fight in which a lot of people thought he won. We haven't seen both of them back since that fight. I mean, when you go through a fight like that, it changes you, and it changes you long term. And I'm interested to see if Whittaker comes back the same as well. I mean, he got mollywopped towards the end of that fight, and Yoel, he let Whittaker get free shots on him. He took a lot of damage. He just sat back and let Whittaker tee off on him for 3 rounds. You know what I'm saying? And that takes a toll out of you. So time to chill out, refresh. These guys have been supposed to fight 3 times. To be honest, I feel like you should have fought Costa the first time because all he's done is given a guy like Costa more time to develop and turn into a monster. Look, this guy Costa was made to beat guys like Yoel Romero. You know what I'm saying? I feel like this is, I don't want to say a tailor-made spot, but I feel like at 44 years of age, with 2 losses against the current champion, Robert Whittaker, especially the type of fights that both of them were, you know what I'm saying? A fight, the first one he was up 2-0, you know what I'm saying? And then he lost the last 3 rounds. And then in the last one, the finish was there, and he couldn't do it. Fought Luke Rockhold, missed weight, and he missed weight for the second one as well. I mean, you could kind of say Yoel's been a mess for a little while, you know what I'm saying? He's had time to recover, so we'll see how it is. But I feel like he's running into, one of the bigger problems that the middleweight division has ever seen in a while, And I know Paulo Costa really hasn't fought the level of opponents, but I feel like we say the same story for all, like when Israel was coming up, for example. He hasn't fought anybody, though. You know what I'm saying? Guys, just accept it. He's the new wave. and I like Lil Romero, but when you look at his style, we're talking about a guy that likes to let guys literally crowd him on the fence, and he likes to just sit there and he likes to bank on getting a KO. Now, when you're fighting Chris Weidman, what's his record in his last few fights? And can Chris Weidman take a punch the way he used to?
Chris Weidman gets knocked out every fight.
Luke Rockhold
knocked out every
can't
fight.
Take a punch. You know what I'm saying? Of course Luke Rockhold was going to get knocked out. He's out here getting fucking his jaw broken 2 fights in a row he's gotten his jaw broken. And you talk about these fights where against Drakkar back in the day at UFC 194, Yoel, the first round he was able to win by that spinning back fist, but the second and third round, Drakkar was able to pressure him, back him up, and we're talking about a guy like Drakkar. I feel like Paulo Costa's right kick alone is more of a weapon than anything Drakkar has, you know what I'm saying? That right kick covers so much distance. His boxing is better than Drakkar. We just haven't seen it on the level of opponents because we're young, man. We haven't gotten the opportunity. This is our opportunity. This is our first opportunity against a big name. I like Yoel Romero, but I feel like he's tailor-made for a guy like Costa. He backs up. You back up against Paulo Costa, you are asking for fucking trouble. He's not gonna be scared to like Luke Rockhold out there just trying to tip and, you know what I'm saying, because he's afraid to get hit. Paulo Costa's gonna be in there digging to his body. Yoel has to catch Paulo Costa to win this fight. Paulo Costa will definitely outwork him in a 3-rounder, you know what I'm saying, for a decision win in my opinion. And I feel like with Yoel's age, don't be shocked if he gets knocked out. I feel like Paulo Costa, of course, he hasn't fought anything near this competition level yet. But I feel like with Yoel's past wins, those guys are nowhere near the athlete level that Paulo Costa is. He's got Eric Albertine on his side. A lot of action has come in on him, but I actually agree, man. I think Paulo Costa knocks out Yoel Romero and enters the conversation in the 185-pound title picture.
No matter who wins this fight, something people need to understand is that every contender was once a prospect. Every champion was once a contender. So, just because he's only fought Gareth McClellan.
He beat Johnny Hendricks in Uriah.
Oh my God, he beat Johnny Hendricks in Uriah. Therefore, he has no chance in hell. And it's like, look, yes, he only beat Johnny Hendricks in Uriah, but he handled Johnny Hendricks in Uriah very, very accordingly. And let's bring this up real quick before you guys start disrespecting Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall is a guy that knocked out Gegard Mousasi. Uriah Hall is a guy that knocked out Giagos. So, the guy's got power, and Borachina, I've never seen anyone walk down Uriah Hall like that, land every shot in the book, and then faceplant him. It was vicious, man. It was a systematic beatdown followed by a highlight reel KO. Look, I've seen Uriah Hall get caught before, no doubt about it, but I've never seen him beat pillar to post and then faceplant KO'd like that. So basically what it said was, okay, he's past the Uriah Hall level. Now let's enter the top 10. Well, we are entering the top 10 because now he gets to fight Yoel Romero, who is a demon, who's one of the scariest middleweights in the history of the sport. And real quick, I just want to address one thing before I forget. People are mentioning, you got rocked by Uriah Hall. Like, if you really want to bring that up, then you better fucking bring up that Yoel got rocked by Tim Kennedy. Okay, now that we got that out the way, let's break down this matchup. So, basically, the reason we love Yoel so much, and I love betting Yoel as an underdog. He's one of my all-time favorite underdogs because he has that ability, chill. Here comes the third round. Let's knock the guy out. He'll do something explosive in that third round after doing nothing at all. We love him for it. Always has these explosive knockouts. And I heard his wrestling style back in the day was actually pretty similar. He would chill until he had to score his points, get the win, because the way his body's formed, if he pushes on that gas from the beginning, he will gas out. Like, he can't do that, so he's got to maintain his energy, know when to strike, and he's so damn good at it, man. But look, that last fight with Whitaker, live had some company, was trying to act a certain way, acting like, Yoel got robbed. But when I watched it by myself, look, the only round in question is round 4, and let's really break down how round 4 went. Robert Whitaker teed off on Yoel Romero for 4 minutes and 50 seconds. In the last 10 seconds, Yoel Romero wobbled Robert Whitaker. So, do you favor 4 minutes and 50 seconds of work, or do you favor one punch that didn't even drop him? So, I give round 4 to Robert Whitaker, so that means it's 48-47. Unless you're out here giving some of those 10-8s to Yoel, which you could totally do. In that case, I could see a draw, and I love the guy. Like I said, he's come through for me many times at dog odds, and he has an affinity for that third round KO. But the thing here with Paulo Costa is that if he does not KO Paulo Costa, he's definitely going to lose the decision. He's going to get outworked. Now, the big question here is the caveat, the X factor. People are saying Yoel's Olympic wrestling, go out there, take the guy down, ground and pound him. The issue here is that, first of all, Paulo Costa has an excellent get-up game, and second of all, Yoel Romero does not have the best top control. I've noticed in many of his fights where he gets beautiful takedowns, that inside trip is money, but he doesn't hold guys down. So I think even if he takes Paulo down, Paulo's going to get back up, and when they're on their feet and Yoel's trying to rest a little bit, man, he's going to start getting teed off on with big combinations. This hits the scorecards, and Paulo's winning, but I have a feeling this ends inside the distance, man. I love Yoel Romero, but at some point you're going to show your age, and I think this is the fight where that happens. I got Paulo Costa via knockout. Co-main event of the evening in the welterweight division, we got Nate Diaz, he's 19-11, and Anthony Showtime Pettis is 22-8. Currently, they got Anthony Showtime Pettis minus 125. The comeback on Nate Diaz is plus 105. Well, Shaq, on paper, this is a very exciting fight between two lightweights moving up to 170, as you got the former champion, Anthony Pettis, taking on one of the most exciting fighters in the history of the sport, Nate Diaz. Who do you see getting their arm raised on Saturday in Anaheim?
The two names alone, you gotta watch this fight. Showtime Pettis, former world champion, Nate Diaz, one of the most polarizing guys in the sport. Like we just said, the guy has sparked up a nice little joint at the open workouts yesterday, man. He does things like that.
Now. He passed it to the fans, you know what I'm saying? Man of the people.
He's looking out, you know what I'm saying? But, a lot has changed since the last time we seen him. I mean, the last time we saw him was UFC 202. You want to know what was going on at UFC? Matter of fact, let's show you what was going on at UFC 202. Rick Story was still in the UFC at UFC 202. Colby Covington was your just typical undercard fighter at UFC 202. He beat Max Griffin that night. That was Max Griffin's debut. Anthony Rumble Johnson knocked out Glover Teixeira that night. Man, a lot has changed.
So you're saying it's been a long ass time since he's fought.
It's been a long time since we've seen Diaz, and a lot has changed in the, has changed in the sport. I mean, Showtime's fucking up at 170, you know what I'm saying? So, man, but obviously, man, we know this is going to be a great fight. Now, historically speaking, the way to beating a Diaz is what? Fucking low kicks, calf kicks. We've seen guys in the past definitely damage him, Benson, RDA, but Pettis, we know he doesn't really have that type of kicking style, in my opinion. He's got more of the flashy, he'll throw cartwheel kicks and fucking, kicks more oriented up towards the head instead of low. Now, of course, you can easily switch it up, and if they're smart and use the right game plan. And like we saw with McGregor in that second fight, look, the second McGregor fight came out and he was starting to throw low kicks, me and you looked at each other like, fuck, he got us. I didn't think the motherfucker was gonna throw low kicks. But, that's the key. That's the key to beating both Diaz's. So, but like I said, I don't think Pettis has that kicking style. What I would be more worried for Diaz is kind of something similar to the Josh Thompson fight. Him getting caught with the kick upstairs. Look, Diaz fights with his hands down in the pocket, and his durability is so good. But generally, when you look at his last few fights, we're talking about these punchers. We're talking about guys like Michael Johnson who are gonna, stand right in front of him. Conor McGregor, the first fight, let's not forget, Conor McGregor was fighting up 2 weight classes, coming from 145. He hadn't had the 155 fight yet in the UFC. He was coming straight up from 145s. Diaz was able to use his size. His durability is fucking on point. He ate those shots that no one else at the time could eat. And he was able to tire McGregor out. And we know what happens when McGregor gets tired. I mean, what happens every time McGregor gets tired? Except the rematch.
Now he's losing bar fights to old men,
Now he's resorting to knocking old men out in bars and shit like that. So
the old men didn't go down.
You can't even knock out old guys. He's lost that left hand and got that
Connor's
same touch.
Connor's a fraud.
But, so, and when you look at AP on the other hand, I feel like we cannot forget, when we're looking at this fight with Diaz, we cannot forget that a lot of AP's trouble really stemming off the wrestling. We're talking about when guys shoot on him, hold him down. Fights like Dustin Poirier, Dustin didn't just come out there and put pressure on him. He took him down first. Eddie Alvarez took him down. The only two guys that did not take him down were Tony Ferguson and Tony did take him down. But Tony Max and Edson Barboza. And when you look at most of Showtime's losses, they're against championship guys that have held a championship at some point in their careers. Now, Diaz, I feel like a lot of the things on Diaz are really based off these fights with Conor McGregor in specific, Now, he did have the win over Michael Johnson, but, I've said in the past I like Michael Johnson, but on the given day, anyone could beat Michael Johnson. You know what I'm saying? I know he knocked out Dustin. I know he knocked out T-Ferg. I know he beat Edson Barboza, but he also lost to Miles Jury, Reza Madadi, Darren Elkins, Ted Worthington, James Krause, Paul Sass, and a bunch of
But he beat Tony and Dustin.
But he beat Tony and Dustin. But like I said, you don't know what to expect from that motherfucker on a given day. But those are good wins for Diaz, and Diaz has shown that he's the better boxer than Pettis by far. Pettis can't box in my opinion, but Pettis has shown that he's the better kicker. So it's gonna come down to who can get off on their games. Now, like I said, Pettis' issues a lot come from stemming off the wrestling. Generally in these fights where straight stand-up, he has wilted in the past, like against Max Holloway and T-Ferg, and those guys come with a serious amount of pressure. Now, Nate Diaz does come with that pressure sometimes, but sometimes he also struggles a little bit eating too much shots. He'll get cut super easily. Pettis also gets cut super easily. But it's just like I'm basing all of this off of one fighter, Conor McGregor. You know what I'm saying? I've only seen Diaz 2 times in the last few years. Conor, yeah, he matches up a specific way with Conor McGregor. It doesn't mean he's gonna. I don't know how it translates in 2019 to Anthony Pettis. Now, I actually liked his last performance against Wonderboy Thompson. A lot of people are saying it's a fluke, but I actually thought Pettis fought smart. I felt like, he shelled up while Wonderboy was throwing all that little pitter patter on the outside. He got cut in that fight as well. But, look, that was a perfectly timed counter. And you can say what you want, but Wonderboy went the fuck down in the second round. That ain't no fluke to me. This fight just comes down to can Nate Diaz, can his legs still take the punishment? Is his durability the same as it always has been? If his durability is still the same, if he can still eat a head kick, if his legs can still take the type of punishment that you got to be able to succeed at this level of the sport in 2019, then I feel like, yeah, maybe his boxing can break Anthony Showtime Pettis down like we have seen in the past. We've seen Nate come after guys like Conor McGregor. That's it. And Michael Johnson.
Cowboy Cerrone.
Yeah, he definitely beat Cowboy Cerrone, but that was in 2011 or 10,
Cowboy was a stud back then too.
You know what I'm saying? But it's a tough fight for me to predict. I slightly lean Nate Diaz, but I also feel like there's a chance where he is, a little step behind after this time off. He has taken a lot of damage those last 2 fights. I do think he is the overall better fighter here. I actually think he could even possibly pick Pettis down. I saw him take down Josh Thompson in their fight. You know what I'm saying? He also got on top of Conor McGregor as well, so I wouldn't be shocked if he did that as well. But I'm not sure 100% to really judge the caliber of fighter he is, because we're basing everything off one look against Conor McGregor and Michael Johnson. We haven't really seen much of him besides that. This is his typical pattern. He likes to come off these big layoffs and, peek his head in here, get a win. You know what I'm saying? He kind of like Zombie in that sense. So I will pick him for the win. But I feel like I don't want to say 50-50 fight, but I'll say like 52-48 Diaz,
So you're saying there's some value on him?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I feel like if you take that shot,
So it should be a pick'em is what you're saying?
Yeah, by all means. But, sometimes when you get these type of lines, they play out one-sided. We'll see what happens. I definitely think the fight's going to play out one-sided. People are saying that AP has to knock him out to win, It's because Diaz throws the more punches. He throws at a higher rate than Showtime Pettis, but we can't forget that, when Diaz goes to decision, he's a whopping 3-9, you know what I'm saying? Decisions are really, honestly, Diaz, they're generally not good for Diaz, brother. So it's an interesting fight to me, It's interesting to see people see it so clearly one side, but, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but again, like you said about Pettis, a lot of the issues he's had has come from wrestlers, and I feel like it's the same thing with Diaz. When Diaz is out here going to decisions in striking matches, you saw him win the decision against Cerrone, you saw him win the decision against Michael Johnson, and maybe could have arguably got it against Conor, but it was close. So when he's up there with strikers, as of right now, he hasn't been quite getting blown out the water. It's just when you mix in wrestling. Now, everyone's talking about this kicking game of Anthony Pettis, and obviously his kicks have gotten him into the position he's in. The guy jumped off the cage, kicked Benson Henderson's head into the 5th row. We'll all remember that highlight for the rest of our lives. Joe Lozon, even Benson the second time with the body kicks. Cowboy Cerrone. He's kicked a lot of people very hard in his time, Shaq. But what I want to bring up here is that when you talk about this fight between Conor and Nate, and you talk about how the leg kicks were so effective, that was southpaw versus southpaw. Benson was southpaw versus southpaw. Here with AP, although AP does have the ability to go to southpaw, as you've seen in some of his other fights, does he have the ability to fight the entire fight southpaw? That's what I want to know. He's going to have to be switching stances here. I believe he probably will come out southpaw, try to kick that leg a couple times, or maybe go orthodox and go for that inside leg. But if he's trying to go for that inside leg, it's going to be way harder to chop than if he goes to southpaw stance and starts working on that calf. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very curious to see what stance Showtime comes out in. But, we can mention how Diaz has been gone for 3 years. No doubt, that's 100% true. We also got to mention that in those 3 years, Pettis has been finished 3 times, brutally, viciously, like badly. And we're talking about the kind of stuff that Diaz would never do ever inside the octagon. Let me tell you what I mean. When's the last time you saw Nate Diaz tap to a body triangle? When's the last time you saw Nate Diaz not answer the bell between rounds? When's the last time you saw Nate Diaz take a knee in the middle of a fight? Do you understand what I'm saying? The answer is never to all of the above. So I just think there's a massive difference in the mentality between these two. And I actually do agree with this notion that Pettis has to finish the fight to win. We'll see what happens. Look, if it hits the scorecards, you're right about that 3 and 9. But I feel like a bunch of the ones that were on the 9 side were a bunch of wrestlers. And that's not going to be the case with Pettis. Pettis has to land something big here. And he totally can. We've seen Diaz get caught with a high kick before. Even though I know Showtime is going to fight nothing like Josh Thompson. The way Josh Thompson fought, we all remember the high kick, but I remember the actual fight. And it was an embarrassment. I mean, Josh Thompson was running away from him the entire time. Nate got tired of running after the guy. Josh Thompson closes his eyes. He says a prayer. He lands a lucky head kick. Look, if Anthony lands one, it's not going to be lucky. It's going to be the real deal because this guy's known for going out here knocking guys out with all kinds of kicks, Superman punches. Man, he put Wonderboy out cold, but Diaz brings a kind of different pressure than Wonderboy. Diaz has a lot more volume than Wonderboy and a lot better hands too, so I think he's going to be eating a lot of kicks in that first round, but if he does not get knocked out, I think he's going to start to put that volume on Showtime, and it's going to be like the Poirier fight. When he's up against the fence, he's going to get teed off on. It's going to be like the Tony Ferguson fight. When he's up against the fence, he's going to get teed off on. It's going to be like the Max Holloway fight. When he's up against the fence, he will get teed off on. Nate Diaz will tee off on Anthony Pettis. I see him winning the second and third round, out-voluming him with the boxing, and winning a 29-28 unanimous decision. Main event of the evening. For the heavyweight championship, we got the champ, Daniel Cormier, DC. He's 22-1. And the former champ, the now challenger, Stipe Miocic, is 18-3. Currently, they got Daniel Cormier minus 135. The comeback on Stipe Miocic is plus 115. Well, Shaq, I mean, it's easy to say that Daniel Cormier is going to come out here and knock him out in the first round. But historically speaking, those title rematches tend to go a different way. Whether it's the same guy winning, it might just be a different method. So how you see this one playing out between two of the greatest heavyweights of all time?
Seems like Stipe Miocic is still in denial, and I feel like he's showing signs of the typical former champion that just can't accept it, to be honest. I feel like his issues is honestly mental in this matchup, Look, you're saying the guy got lucky. You're saying you were winning the fight. You're saying, you can just see the embedded episodes, and he's making this a little bit too more personal than what he should. And you see DC being the calm, nice guy. He thinks it's funny, you know what I'm saying? But skill wise, look, going into the first fight, people were saying, Stipe's too big. So we were thinking that the size was going to be a factor, and Stipe had been knocking everyone out. I mean, he just beat Francis fucking Ngannou, fucking holy shit, you know what I'm saying?
He beat the guy that hits like a Ford Escort.
Everyone thought this was a lock. I mean, he just beat Francis. I mean, you seen that guy? But Cormier just showed, man, that Cormier is like one of those ultimate competitors. I put him in that group with the Cejudos, I put Usman, the Covingtons, those guys, huh? Jones, those guys that compete, those guys that just. They just don't lose. They don't even lose rounds half the time. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys, though, those wrestlers, man, they compete in a way. They got that mindset, and I don't feel like Stipe has that mindset. I feel like Stipe
is D1,
but not Cormier D1.
No, Cormier's Olympic.
Cormier is Oklahoma State. We're fucking. I feel like Stipe, while he was champion, I'm not going to discredit his champion because he was the guy that knocked out Fabricio Verdun. But guys, I don't ever want to discredit wins, but go pull up that tape. What the fuck was Fabricio? Dude was running at him with his chin up in the air.
He pulled up Brunson.
Like, he pulled a stunt, and Stipe, just stuck his right hand out there and knocked him out. You know what I'm saying? And then his fight with Overeem in Cleveland, you know what I'm saying? Don't forget, he got dropped 2-3 times in that fight. A lot of people say Stipe tapped. A lot of people say Stipe tapped. And, he was able to not be the 15th guy to knock Overeem out, you know what I'm saying? And then he gets matched up with JDS coming off a fucking layoff, who was coming off one win over Ben Rothwell. Before that, he got knocked out by Overeem. Molly walked by Cain Velasquez. Had a tough fight with Stipe Miocic, you know what I'm saying? He was able to win that fight, and then, he beat Francis Ngannou, and look, they say Francis Ngannou wasn't training at all. I mean, they say the guy was taking flights out to France. And
I mean, the guy had French powder in his nose, and we're going to sit here and act like...
They said the guy was missing all his treatment appointments at the PI. They said Francis is there. Well, we don't know where the hell Francis is. And look, Francis had to pay the price. The shit got to his head, and now you see he's a little more focused, and now you're seeing him knock guys out in less than, setting records for quick knockouts. So now I feel like Stipe Miocic is very chinny. I feel like he leaves his chin up in the air, but I feel like he always had that volume boxing style in an age where the heavyweights cardio would fail on them really quick. Cain wasn't in the picture when Stipe was making his title run. Cain was already half retired, And like I said, I kind of feel like he caught these guys on the end, Did get that win over Francis, but I feel like Francis low-key secretly damaged his chin now. I know he survived that fight, but when you look at some of the shots that he took in that fight, and then you look at his following performance against Daniel Cormier,
of course he got knocked out in the first round.
He was leaving his chin up the entire time in that fight. Generally, the shots that he would get away with, he couldn't this time because that durability is not the same anymore. He's getting a little older. That's how the fight game happens. Now, Cormier is also getting a little bit older, but Cormier at light heavyweight, besides John Jones and the Gustafsson fight, generally his fights are one-sided. Quick, Derek Lewis, easy finish. Volkan Ozdemir was a second-round finish. Anthony Rumble Johnson, easy finishes. Some of his fights he really didn't necessarily take that much damage. So I actually think he's got the durability edge in here. I feel like he's got the cardio edge in here. We saw Stipe get really tired quick in that first round. He was leaving his head, hanging low in the clinch, and boom, he was asleep. And just the fact that he hasn't gotten over mentally, this kind of reminds me of. This is just a tip. It's like Joanna and Rose and Rose Namajunas. You know what I'm saying? They're like, what? But you didn't really win. You didn't beat me 5 rounds, though. You know what I'm saying? That's how you tell a real champion. You got to beat me 5 rounds. Knock me out again. And that's exactly what's going to happen here on Saturday night. I feel like Cormier is too fast. He's got the mindset over advantage. Kind of similar to Cyborg and Amanda. She's so shook of the other one. And I feel like Stipe's brave, of course, man. He's going to show up to fight. But I feel like deep down, there's an underlying issue when it comes to Daniel Cormier in his head. And I feel like it'll come to play on Saturday night again. I just think that he hasn't accepted it the way that he should have. If he would have been like, Cormier got me, if he didn't really make some of these personal attacks on Cormier, he accepted the loss. Kind of like how McGregor and Nate Diaz, we saw, what did McGregor say in that first interview after he was like, he got me, I'll be back, and I'll bounce back like the champion that I am. And
this is before Conor was beating up old men.
This is before the cocaine, you know what I'm saying?
It's before the bus incident. The bus incident, it's been...
I just know, in my history, when guys really haven't accepted the L and they're making all these stupid excuses, they usually lose again, and I think that's what happens again. But I think this time it'll probably be a 3rd round knockout. Stipe will put up a better fight. I mean, he's got to put up a better fight this time. Yeah. So, but I got to go with Daniel Cormier by knockout.
Look, I got a ton of respect for both of these guys. Obviously, Stipe Miocic set the record for most title defenses in the heavyweight division's history. And not only that, I mean, the guy's a firefighter. You got to respect him for that. Family man. All these things. And with Daniel Cormier, I mean, you can say the same thing. He's out here coaching high school wrestling, one of the best programs in Gilroy, California. These two are real studs outside the cage, but inside the cage, Daniel Cormier's got a big mental advantage here over Stipe Miocic. I mean, you're so right about how Francis ruined Stipe's chin, even though we can bring up how Stefan Struve knocked this guy out and how no guy that got knocked out by Stefan Struve is beating Daniel Cormier in a fight. But it was really the Francis fight that put the icing on the cake and really diminished his chin from, in the video game, if he's got a 90 on the chin, now he's got a 75, you know what I'm saying? So, and then he fought DC and he got knocked out in the first round the very next fight. So basically now's the rematch, and I mean, if you hear Stipe talk, I mean, the guy's punch drunk to a point where, I mean, DC and Francis really messed this guy up, and now you're telling me he's going to come back out here and be champ again? I just don't see it happening. I understand people taking the shot. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. The lines flipped to where it was the first time they fought, but I mean, you see why, right? One guy knocked the other guy out into the fifth dimension, and I think that's probably going to happen here too. I mean, I know rematches don't always go like the first one went, but these are heavyweights, man. These guys hit so damn hard. These guys have something to prove. I got Daniel Cormier knocking out Stipe Miocic again and still. And now we got to hit up Kyle Marley for the Big Marley Minute. And joining us now on the Big Marley Minute is Big Marley himself. Kyle, it's going down this Saturday. The heavyweight championship is on the line. How's it going?
Hey, not too bad, man. We got $100,000 up top on DraftKings this weekend, so I always love chasing those. And this is a pretty solid card, so I'm looking forward to watching it as well.
Now, real quick, break this down for us on Half the Battle. When you say 100K, is the top prize 100K or is it a 100K pool?
100K to the top prize. It's $300,000 pool, but $25 entry. Either somebody will win 100K or multiple people will tie and split that 100K. But they'll split, first, second, third, whatever prizes are, however many people it is, they'll split that many prizes. So it'll be one hell of a payday for whoever wins this thing.
So pretty much whoever has the perfect lineup here, the optimal lineup, as they like to say, is about to change their life forever.
Exactly. But, I mean, we got, how many is it? It's about 14,000 entrants in here. It's only 12 fights on the card. If you want to win $100,000, you're going to have to do something different. You can't just go with all chalk and expect that you're going to be the only person with that lineup and hit 100K. You're going to have to be weird somewhere or leave a lot of money on the table. You definitely need to be contrarian if you want to win $100,000 solo, but somebody's going to do it.
Well, off the bat, I gotta know: Are you gonna be contrarian? Are you gonna be contrarian on this main event between Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic? You going with the defending champion, or you think the former champion has a chance at the upset?
Well, it won't be contrarian either way because this is pretty much an all-in fight. You're going to need one side or the other because of their salaries. $8,500 for DC, $7,700 for Miocic. Whoever wins, they're going to pay off that salary for sure, and they're probably going to score 100 or more points. So whoever you like, they need to be in a lineup for sure. You can start your fights here your lineups here with this fight. My preference is DC. I like him. He just has more ways to win. His wrestling, we saw him get the knockout last time. He scored 112 in that one. So I definitely like that kind of upside. He could go out there and do it again. So I do prefer him, but it's not like by a ton. So what I've been doing, I've been like putting DC into lineups and then building around that. And if I want to move up somewhere real bad, I've just gone down from DC to Miocic and then moved up wherever else I wanted to. So it's just going to be an all-in fight. Pretty much every one of my lineups is going to have this fight one way or the other. I'm guessing I'll be like 60-40 in favor of DC, but I haven't built all my lineups yet. I just know that the winner's going to score high. And I'm cool stacking this in cash too. Give me my 100+ points and a win, and I'll take that.
In terms of the betting line, do you think it's accurate, or do you think it should be a little bit wider?
I think it's pretty accurate. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty spot on.
Co-main event of the evening, you got Anthony Pettis taking on Nate Diaz at 170 pounds. We know if Pettis comes out here, gets some kind of head kick knockout, that's going to score a lot. On the flip side, if Nate Diaz lands over 100 significant strikes, that's also going to take care of biz. So which way you leaning?
Yeah, no doubt. I think Pettis is going to need the knockout to score like super highly and lock himself in for that 100K. But Diaz can get there in a decision. And I mean, his ground game, I like his ground game more, so he can get the submission as well. He's not getting like a one punch knockout thing, but he could put volume on Pettis where he just makes him quit, score highly that way as well. But yeah, Diaz has got to be my preferred play here. When he wins, he scores, man. He usually scores over 100. He had 149 points against Donald Cerrone, and with just significant strikes, no takedowns or anything. So that's crazy volume. I love to target that. He's only 7,900, so he's probably one of my favorite dogs of the week. And I'm going to pick him to get the win here. But, man, we haven't seen him in 3 years, so we really don't know what kind of Diaz we're getting or how motivated he is. So I'm not against taking some Pettis, too. Maybe he will go out there with that heavier power at 170, go out there and get a knockout. And he will be lower owned, I'm guessing, because Nate Diaz is the bigger name. He's cheaper. So I'd assume Diaz might be like almost double the ownership of Pettis here. And I don't think he's that much of a lock to get this job done. But I am going to take him as my preferred play and my pick to win.
A lot of people are calling this a potential fight of the night. So what's your opinion of the stack in DraftKings?
No, I probably wouldn't stack this over the main event. We don't need to get that cute. I would rather just go ahead and put Nate in solo if you want to use this fight, because I wouldn't trust using either one of the main event guys solo, because you could get a 0 from whoever that is. I don't think that's the case in this one.
Well, Kyle, I have a feeling that the winner of this next fight might be on the optimal lineup because we got Yoel Romero taking on Paulo Costa. Yoel, one of the most prolific finishers in middleweight history, taking on a guy in Paulo Costa who looks to rise to the occasion this Saturday night. The question is, will he do that and get the biggest win of his career?
Shit, if he does, I would say he's going to be a lock for that 100K lineup, because he's only 7,600, and if he wins, it's going to be by knockout, and he's going to have a lot of volume in there with it. So I'd say he's one of the locks to win. I mean, to be on the 100K if he wins as an underdog. But man, this is the toughest test by far of his life, and I can't pick him over Yoel at this point. So I'm going to lean with the favorite here. I just think he has more ways to win, kind of like DC, where if he uses that wrestling, I think he's going to put Costa out on the ground with some ground and pound, and that's the most successful and least dangerous path to victory. So you might as well do that. But these guys hate each other, so maybe he's going to want to go out there and brawl with this guy. And if that's the case, I mean, he's probably going to have to put him out with one punch because Costa's going to put up higher volume. He could get the one punch knockout as well. I'm just relying on Yoel going for takedowns here, and that's why I like him. But yeah, like you said, whoever wins, they're going to score high, and they're probably on the 100K lineup. It's just not a lock for Yoel to be on it with a win. He could go out there and score 86 points in a win, whereas Costa, I don't think there's any way he's going to score 86 in a win. He's probably 100 plus. So it's pretty much all in, but I'll take Yoel as my preferred play.
Last but not least, in the featherweight division, you got Sodiq Yusuff taking on Gabriel Benitez. And once again, I have a feeling that the winner of this fight has a very high ceiling. I mean, I think they're going to go out there, score a lot of points. Do you think the favorite, Sodiq Yusuff, rolls here?
Yeah, man, I'm impressed with Sodiq. I like him overall as a fighter. Looking forward to his ceiling in this sport. I think he has title contention ahead of him. And yeah, I like him in this fight too. I think he has a big edge on the feet. I think he's probably going to get a knockout in this fight. The only issue is he's $9,300 on DraftKings. That's pretty high, and it's so high that we're really needing the knockout from him at that point, because if he goes out there and scores 80 like he did in his last fight in a decision win, that's not going to do it at 9.3K. But I do like him here. I do think he gets the finish. Probably scores about 100 points. I'll just say I do like Devonte Smith a little bit more for 200. So like if I can't get up to Devonte, I'm totally fine with sticking with Yusuff. But I would prefer to find that $200 somewhere else and get up to Smith, because I feel better about him getting the first round finish. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to this fight. I think Yusuff is a stud. And then on the other end, I mean, Benitez, he's live if this fight can hit the ground. I don't think he has a whole lot of a chance on the feet, but if he can get this fight to the ground, maybe he could even get a submission. He's super cheap at at 6,900. I don't see him being too highly owned, so maybe he's a solid contrarian play. But yeah, my preferred play here is Yusuff, and I'll pick him by second round knockout.
Well, Kyle, that's why you are the DraftKings guy for Half the Battle. It's going down this Saturday in Anaheim. They can follow you at Big Marley 3, and your bets and your write-ups are available at bestfightpicks.com.
Yes, sir. It's been a popular week already. We got a max bet out there. I just sent my write-up your way. Head over to Best Fight Picks and grab those. Let's make some money this weekend. Good luck, everybody.
Shaq, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC 241?
My fight to watch actually is going to be Sandhagen versus Assuncao. Look, I know it's going to be a technical fight, but look, if this kid Corey Sandhagen comes in here again and beats another one of these top, perennial top 5, 6, 7 guys, I mean, holy shit, you cannot deny this guy. He's talking about he wants to be in that interim conversation with Jan and Aljamain Sterling, and I got to agree with the guy. So, and if Assuncao gets this one, hey, he's back in the picture.
Yeah.
Like, hey, 37, I'm still doing this shit, buddy. So sleep on me still. But, that's my fight to watch.
Yeah, look, my fight to watch is Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero. I mean, this could be a changing of the guard type fight, but it could also be Yoel Romero coming back and showing, hey, I'm still the number one contender in the UFC middleweight division. But I think here with Paulo Costa, we might be looking at a new force, a new contender, just a new generation type guy. So for that reason, Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero is my fight to watch. Well, Shaq, who is your fighter to watch for UFC Anaheim?
My fighter to watch is going to be Sodiq Yusuff. I mean, this guy is quite the prospect at 145 pounds, and now he's got a tough fight with Gabriel Mowgli Benitez on his hands. And Gabriel, man, he brings it every time. A very tough Mexican, and I feel like they're trying to fast track Sodiq. Now he's on the main card on a pay per view. First it was main card in Australia, main card in Philly against Shaman Moraes. Now main card pay per view. Look, this is prospect versus veteran night. I mean, Sandhagen, Assuncao, Heinisch and Brunson, Costa and even Yusuff and Benitez is prospect versus vet. So I feel like this is gonna be a good night. But Yusuff's my fighter to watch. I've been high on this kid for a long time, and I want to see if he continues to live up to the potential.
Yeah, look, my fighter to watch is Ian Heinisch. I mean, this is the biggest opportunity of his career. He's opening up the pay-per-view, and if you think that they're trying to get Derek Brunson a win here, you've lost your goddamn mind. So basically what this comes down to, the reason he's my fighter to watch is because, hey, man, here's Derek Brunson coming off all these knockout losses. Show us what you can do, man. Are you really this top prospect, top contender that everyone's saying you are? If you are, go out there and handle Derek Brunson accordingly, because going to decision, a very close one with Brunson, won't let us know that you're that top guy. So if Ian comes out here and knocks him out, he's going to show why he's opening up that pay-per-view, and for that reason, he is my fighter to watch. Well, Shaq, it's going down this Saturday in Anaheim, California, UFC 241. They can follow me at Best Fight Picks. They can follow you at MMA Genius 05, and they can get our bets at bestfightpicks.com. Make sure to use that promo code Shaq to save 10% off of Shaq's individual package. Looking to cash these bets this weekend.
I should be releasing these bets pretty soon. We're looking to get the win for UFC 241.
Yes, sir. That's the plan. So once again, thank you so much to all our fans, all our supporters. We truly, sincerely appreciate every single one of you. Thank you guys so much for everything you've done for us to get us to this point. Make sure you subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, and everywhere else. We will be back soon. BestFightPicks.com for the plays. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.